Hey folks, this is Rhykker with the Diablo 3 Season 25 Wizard Build Guide. This guide will be for the Firebird Wizard. Firebird Wizards were amongst the most powerful builds in the game. This season, Season 25, they are being hit with a nerf that renders one version of the build no longer possible. That's the Mirror Images version that we've covered in the past. But Flame Blades still works. So this will be a video guide for the Flame Blades variant, which is going to be the best wizard build of Season 25. The gameplay footage you're seeing in the background was recorded by top player Rob, and you can follow along with the written version of this guide on maxroll.gg, written by top player Chewy. Be sure to check back at season start to see the most up-to-date version. The articles on Maxroll are kept up-to-date with all the latest evolving meta information. So in this video, we're going to cover the gear, the skills, and the playstyle that you want to rock this build, and it all starts with equipping the Firebird set. The two-piece bonus makes your Disintegrate skill ignite enemies. What does that mean? An ignited enemy takes 3000% weapon damage per second until they die. In addition to this, you get a free life. Whenever you die, instead of dying, a meteor falls down from the sky and revives you. This can only happen once every 60 seconds. Then the two-piece, Casting Disintegrate, adds combustion stacks that reduce the cooldown of teleport by 2% per stack. This can stack up to 50 times, which turns into 100% cooldown reduction on teleport. Additionally, you gain 80% damage reduction while maintaining any amount of combustion stacks. Maintaining these stacks will not be difficult. Then lastly, the six-piece. You gain 5000% increased damage while Ignite is applied to a target. Then hitting an ignited enemy with a non-channeling fire spell deals Ignite damage, which is the 3000 per second, multiplied by combustion stacks. So that would be 3000 times 50. And what's new now to Season 25 is pets cannot trigger this effect. This is what kills the Mirror Images version, but Flame Blades remains untouched. Now, what's important to note here is that there's no specific skill that is dealing the damage, directly that is. Most builds in this game revolve around buffing the damage of a particular skill. Here we are dealing some special Firebird six-piece damage. Flame Blades will be the skill that serves as our vehicle for applying this damage, but it could be anything. And we will not want to buff the damage of Flame Blades because that doesn't matter. All the damage is coming from the Firebird six-piece. Another item that we'll want, and we'll put it in the cube, is the Orb of Infinite Depth. Each time you hit an enemy with Explosive Blast, your damage is increased by 10%, and your damage reduction is increased by 20% for 6 seconds. This can stack up to 4 times. So we're taking this item because it gives us 80% damage reduction and 40% extra damage. For our weapon, we're going to want the Fragment of Destiny. Your signature spells attack 50% faster and deal triple damage. Triple damage doesn't matter, but attacking 50% faster every time we hit, we're applying our six-piece Firebird damage. Let's call it Inferno damage. The item also goes on to buff Hydra, but again, doesn't matter, we're just taking this for that 50% faster application of Inferno damage. Then also in our cube, we'll take the Shame of Delzir belt. Your signature spells attack 50% faster and restore 12 arcane power, more super fast attacking flame blades. We're going to equip in our cube the Ring of Royal Grandeur. This reduces the number of items needed for set bonuses by 1. This will let us fit in the Captain Crimson set into this build. Now, this ring does not drop as a global drop. You can only get it from Act 1 and Act 4 bounty bags. But don't try to get this from Act 4 bounty bags. Act 4 bounty bags have a much larger drop pool. So do Act 1 bounties to get the Ring of Royal Grandeur. Then we want to work 2 pieces of the Captain Crimson set, belt, and then either pants or boots. The 2-piece bonus gives us some life regen, gives us 20% cooldown reduction and 20% resource cost reduction. The 3-piece makes us deal more damage based on how much cooldown reduction we have, and makes us take less damage based on how much resource cost reduction we have. While we're at it, we'll also take 2 pieces of the Oghild set to get the 3-piece bonus. 2-piece bonus reduces damage taken by 30%, increases damage dealt by 30%. 3-piece reduces damage from elites by 30%, increases damage against elites by 30%. This will be shoulders and bracers. So we're now rocking 3 separate sets, Firebird offhand in our hand, and that leaves our jewelry slots. We'll start by talking about the speed version of this build, and then we'll cover how you can change things to get into GR pushing. The The difference here being, if you're doing runs in about 5 minutes or less, you're doing the speed version. If you're really trying to push higher, greater rifts, be it to grind out your legendary gems, or you want to increase your blood shard cap, or you just want to push yourself, you want to see how far you can go. That's what we mean by pushing. So for the speed version here, we're going full power, focus, and restraint, the bastions of will set. When you hit with a resource generating attack or primary skill, deal 50% increased damage for 5 seconds, and then when you hit with a resource spending attack, deal again 50% increased damage. These two stack to give you 125% more damage, because it's 50% after you've already been buffed by 50%. For our amulet then, we'll take a Squirt's Necklace. While not taking damage, damage dealt is increased by up to 100%, and damage taken is increased by up to 50%. If you want to be more defensive, or you're going with the pushing version of this build, you can go with instead the Traveler's Pledge and Compass Rose, the Endless Walk set. While moving, damage taken is reduced by 50%, and while standing still, damage dealt is increased by up to 100%. In this case, for your other ring, you would take a Convention of Elements, gain 200% increased damage to a single element for 4 seconds, rotating through your available elements. For the regular gems in our pants and chest, we take Topazes for more damage. For our legendary gems, we're going to take a Bane of the Trapped. This makes you do more damage to crowd-controlled enemies, while giving you an aura that crowd controls enemies around you. One of the best legendary gems in the game, nice damage buff. We'll also take a Gogok of Swiftness. Gain swiftness with every attack, increasing your attack speed by 1% and dodge by 2% for 4 seconds, stacking up to 15 times, and also 1% cooldown reduction per stack of swiftness once you get it to rank 25 or higher. The Gogok just complements everything in this build. More attack speed, more cooldown, synergizes with us just wanting to attack more, and the Captain Crimson's cooldown. For our other legendary gem, for speed content, a Bane of the Powerful. Gain 20% increased damage for, at max rank, 3 minutes after killing an elite pack. And also gain 15% increased damage versus elites, and take 15% reduced damage from elites. So if your fights are taking so long that your buff is dropping off, then you want to instead take the Bane of the Stricken. Each attack you make against an enemy increases the damage it takes from your attacks by 2.3%, and you gain 25% increased attack speed against bosses and Rift Guardians. Then the Season 25 specialty here, Soul Shards. Full video on Soul Shards here, what they do, how to upgrade them, how to break them down, all their attributes, but these are new special items that you can put into either weapons or helms. Our weapon Soul Shard, we're going to want the Remnant of Pain. Its legendary property is, your critical hit chance is reduced by 15%, but attacks against incapacitated enemies are automatically critical hits. And then its rank 3 power, which is randomly between 1 of 3, you're going to want to get one that has, when you critically hit an enemy, you increase the attack speed of all players by 5% for 5 seconds, max 10 stacks for another 50% attack speed. Remember, this build is all about applying our Inferno damage as frequently as possible. For our helm slot, we'll take the Shard of Hatred. You deal 15% reduced damage while you have 3 or fewer enemies within 25 yards. That's bad, but if more than 3 enemies are within the same distance, you deal 10% increased damage per enemy, up to a max of 100% increased damage. We're getting into the thick of things with this build. This is a melee wizard throwing out flame blades. Then it's rank 3 power. The one we want is you now deal 15% increased damage for every enemy instead of 10% to a max of 150% increased damage. Now before we go over exactly what you want on every piece of gear, let's first take a look at the skills. So first off, we're taking Disintegrate. We need to take Disintegrate in order for the Firebird set to work. This is what applies Ignite to enemies. It's also what gives us our combustion stacks, so you always want to be casting Disintegrate to just top off your combustion stacks, and ensuring that all the enemies you're attacking are ignited. We're taking the Chaos Nexus rune because while channeling, you become charged and discharge energy at nearby enemies. Basically, you don't have to aim and hit every enemy. As long as you're in the midst of a bunch of enemies, you just shoot and a bunch of zappy rays will get everyone around you. Next, we'll want to take Explosive Blast Chain Reaction. This is what we want to activate our Orb of Infinite Depth, and build up its stacks very quickly. Explosive Blast, after a period of time, erupts, and the Chain Reaction rune makes a total of 3 eruptions happen. With that, we can super easily stack our Orb of Infinite Depth, and every time it's erupting, it's also applying Ignite damage. Explosive Blast also doesn't interrupt our other spellcasting abilities, so we can be channeling Disintegrate or attacking with Flame Blades, and also at the same time be Explosive Blasting. We're taking Spectral Blade Flame Blades because it's the Fire rune of Spectral Blade, it's free to cast, and we're able to buff its attack speed so much. Again, we don't care about how much damage it deals. We're applying Inferno damage, and it's able to apply that very rapidly to a good number of enemies in front of us. It attacks in something of a cone area or an arc right before us. Next, we're going to take Teleport. Thanks to the Firebird 4-piece, we basically have no cooldown on Teleport. And for super speedruns, you can go with the Wormhole rune, which after casting Teleport, you have 3 seconds to teleport 1 additional time. That's really just in order to traverse distances rapidly. If you're not attacking enemies, if you're not taking time to maintain your full stacks, the Wormhole rune lets you rapidly close distances. Not super necessary because we have the most amount of cooldown we can possibly have on Teleport. So for pushing, or if you just want the extra safety, you can take the Safe Passage rune. For 5 seconds after casting Teleport, you will take 25% less damage. Then, if you're using a Squirts, you'll want to take Magic Weapon Deflection. Magic Weapon gives you 10% more damage, but Deflection makes us gain a protective absorb shield every time we perform an attack, and we're attacking very rapidly. That's going to absorb 4% of our life in damage, which helps us maintain our Squirts buff, because as long as it's our absorb shield taking the damage and we're not losing life, we maintain the extra damage from Squirts. Then our last skill, we have some options between either Black Hole or Frost Nova. Black Hole will group enemies together, and Spell Steal will make them deal less damage for 5 seconds, and each enemy hit by the Black Hole gives you 3% increased damage for 5 seconds. So, nice offensive buff while also nerfing enemies. Alternatively, Frost Nova will freeze enemies, and Bone Chill will make them take 33% more damage while frozen. Both are viable to take, and it might depend on your playstyle whether you want to be grouping enemies more. With Black Hole Spell Steal, you can stack up a ton of damage if you can get those nice tight groupings. Pull in a whole bunch of enemies, big damage buff. But if you're only hitting 1 or 2 enemies, not really a significant source of damage, whereas Bone Chill, it's applied to the enemy itself. So any enemy that you're attacking, you're going to deal 33% more damage to them. If you're not using Squirt's Necklace, then you can drop Magic Weapon Deflection and actually take both Black Hole and Frost Nova. Get the best of both worlds. For our passives, we'll take Audacity. You deal 30% additional damage to nearby targets. We'll take Galvanizing Ward. Only, however, if you're using Squirt's Necklace. As long as you have not taken damage in the last 5 seconds, you gain a protective shield that absorbs the next 60% of your life in damage. We'll take Dominance, same thing because of Squirts. Killing an enemy grants a shield that absorbs 2% of your life in damage for 3 seconds, stacking up to 10 times. And you can refresh Dominance whenever you kill an enemy and extend its duration. And then lastly, Evocation, 20% cooldown reduction, easy synergy with our Captain Crimsons. So if you don't have Squirts, instead of Galvanizing Ward and Dominance, you'll want to take Unwavering Will. Standing still for 1.5 seconds increases your armor by 20%, your all resist by 20%, and your damage by 10%. And we can also take Elemental Exposure. Damaging enemies with Arcane, Cold, Fire, or Lightning will cause them to take 5% more damage from your attacks for 5 seconds. Each different damage type applies a stack, stacking up to 4 times. We're dealing fire damage, obviously. We're dealing arcane damage with Black Hole. Frost Nova will not trigger our stack because it's not dealing any damage. That's why on your weapon, you'll want to roll your damage type to either cold or lightning. So we'll get 3 stacks of elemental exposure. Then as for the gameplay, it's relatively straightforward. Before you do anything, cast Disintegrate for 2 seconds to build up your combustion stacks, give you that 80% damage reduction, get you that half a second cooldown on Teleport, which is as low as it goes. Then always be casting your Explosive Blast, Chain Reaction on enemies, teleport around, disintegrate all the enemies to ensure they're all ignited. If you have Black Hole, cast it to group enemies. If you have Frost Nova, cast that to freeze the enemies around you. If you have both, first black hole, then freeze. And then you just spam the hell out of Flame Blades. As for exactly what we want on every piece of gear, on your Og-Hilt shoulders, Intelligence, Vitality, cooldown, resource cost reduction. Helm, Intelligence, Vitality, crit chance. Amulet, Fire, crit, crit. Chest, Intelligence, Vitality, life. Belt, Intelligence, Vitality, life, armor. Pants, Intelligence, Vitality, armor. Boots, Intelligence, Vitality, armor, all resist. Gloves, attack speed, crit chance, crit damage, cooldown. Bracers, fire, intelligence, vitality, crit chance. Both rings, crit, crit, attack speed. For our weapon, percent damage, attack speed, cooldown. If you're using elemental exposure, roll the damage type to either cold or lightning. And our offhand, raw damage, fire damage, intelligence, crit chance, and cooldown. For your paragon point priority, max out your move speed, then dump everything into intelligence. If you're feeling squishy, you can put points into vitality until you have about 1 million life. For offense, attack speed, then crit chance and crit damage, then cooldown reduction. For defense, armor, life percent, all resist, life regen. And for utility, life per hit, resource cost reduction, and pickup radius. Our Inferno damage doesn't work with area damage, so there's no point putting any points into area damage, and in fact, if you're pushing high grade rifts, all it will do is add extra lag to the server, forcing it to do calculations that amount to nothing that really helps us. For our follower, we'll take the Enchantress. For speed runs, we're going to equip her with the Hand of the Prophet. This gives her access to all skills. So we're benefiting from cooldown reduction, elemental damage, reduced damage from ranged attacks, armor, attack speed, and a cheat death. But we're gonna have to help her stay alive. Because of that, we're giving her 2 legendary gems, the 2 legendary gems that actually work on followers. Esoteric Alteration for 60% non-physical damage reduction, and while below half-life, your resistances to cold, fire, lightning, poison, and arcane are increased by 75%, and also the Mutilation Guard, 60% melee damage reduction. While below 50% life, you may move through enemies unhindered. We're going to give her a Flavor of Time amulet. This emanates to us. Pylon effects last twice as long. Nemesis Bracers emanates to us. Shrines will spawn an enemy champion. An Oculus Ring. When an enemy dies, there's a chance that it creates a golden pool on the ground. Stand in it and you will deal 85% more damage. We'll give her Ice Climbers to make her immune to freeze and immobilize effects. We're giving her a Pig Sticker weapon just as a stat stick. The Pig Sticker rolls with an extra primary attribute, so we can load her up with more attributes to help keep her alive. Not terribly important, but we're giving her a Hellfire Ring, 2 pieces of Cane Set, and a Lyric's Crown with a ruby in it to gain a bit more experience. For her other gems, Topaz is for intelligence, as all of her abilities scale off of intelligence, and in her weapon, an Amethyst for more life per hit. Then her gearing priority across all of her gear. Intelligence is priority 1. Then vitality, then life, armor, all resist, life per hit, and then attack speed. And that is going to wrap up this guide. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you see on this channel and want to support the creation of more content, you can consider pledging on YouTube or Patreon and unlocking behind-the-scenes content, monthly virtual hangouts, and more. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. Check out these other videos and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders for more Diablo content.